Um, Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are not looking at a single book or a specific research paper.
Right.
Today, we're actually just looking at a calendar.
Yeah.
Specifically, the month we are currently living through right now, February 2026.
It's a month.
It is a month because if you look at the stack of sources we've pulled together for you today, from the Baker Donaldson legal forecasts to the Dallas Fed's labor data, the chaos reported out of the India AI Summit, it really is starting to look like this is the month where everything just changed.
It really does. Historians always look for these inflection points.
Right.
Those moments where the graph stops going one way and suddenly spikes another way. And usually you only see those in hindsight.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking at this stack of reports, it feels like we are literally watching the inflection point happen in real time.
It's weird, right? Because for the last few years, AI has been this future thing. We've been debating hypothetical risks, maybe future job losses, maybe someday regulations.
Yeah.
But reading through these materials, the tense has shifted. It's not the future anymore. It's present tense.
That is the key takeaway here. The theoretical debates are just crashing into hard reality.
All right.
We aren't talking about what-if scenarios today. We are talking about actual stock market crashes happening this week.
Yes.
Actual constitutional crises between states and the White House. And literal nuclear reactors being restarted right now.
Right now. So here's our mission for this deep dive. We are going to connect the dots for you between 5 massive simultaneous shifts happening this month. We've got the geopolitical struggle in the global south, the legal war here in the U.S., the military standoff at the Pentagon, the physical infrastructure crisis, and finally, that economic shock that just hit the markets.
And we are going to try to answer one single question. How did the world actually change in February 2026?
So let's start with the big picture. Geopolitics.
Okay.
The India AI Impact Summit just wrapped up in New Delhi. This was huge, right?
That is massive.
Because it's the first major summit hosted by the Global South.
It is. And to understand why that matters, you have to look at the previous summits.
Right, like Bletchley Park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bletchley Park, Seoul, Paris, those were all hosted by the incumbents, right? The Western powers. And the theme in all of those was always safety. Now, how do we stop the AI from destroying humanity?
Which, is a valid concern.
Sure.
But the vibe in New Delhi was totally different.
Completely different. The key word wasn't safety at all. It was sovereignty.
Sovereignty.
Yeah. The Global South isn't worried about the Terminator right now. They are worried about digital colonization.
Digital colonization. That is a really heavy term. Unpack that for us a bit.
Well, think about it. If you are India or Brazil or Nigeria,
Okay.
and everyone in your country is suddenly using an AI model trained in California
Right.
on English data with Western cultural values baked into the code, what happens to your culture?
Oh, wow.
What happens to your own domestic tech sector? You basically become a client state. You are importing intelligence the exact same way you used to import oil.
So this summit was essentially about rejecting that entire model.
Exactly. It was all about sovereign AI,
Oh, yeah.
this idea that nations need to own and run their own infrastructure.
Right.
So we saw the launch of indigenous Indian models at the summit.
Yeah.
Things like Sarvam AI.
I saw that in the notes.
Yeah.
And specifically Varadyan, right?
Yes.
Which supports 22 different Indian languages.
And that is technically very difficult to do, but culturally it's essential.
Right.
Because it means a farmer in rural India can interact with the cutting edge of AI in their native dialect.
Without having to filter it through English first.
Exactly. That is what sovereignty looks like in practice.
Yeah.
And there was this New Delhi Declaration.
Which 89 nations endorsed.
Right. It was basically a massive statement of intent from the Global South saying, we will not be left behind this time.
But not everyone was thrilled about this independence movement. The U.S. delegation seemed, chilly.
Chile is putting it very politely.
Uh-huh.
The U.S. delegation was led by Michael Kratsios from the White House, and they took a very, very hard line. The reporting suggests they explicitly rejected the idea of global AI governance or sharing the underlying tech.
Wow.
They framed the summit not as a place for global cooperation, but really as a venue for domination.
Domination, that's the actual word they use.
That is the sentiment being reported.
Yeah.
The U.S. view right now is that AI is strictly a zero-sum game against China.
Right.
So if we share our tech or if we let other nations build their own conflicting standards, we lose the race.
And speaking of China, their high-level officials were notably absent from the summit.
Exactly. They are just doing their own thing in the shadows right now. It's a fragmentation of the internet, but deeper.
Yeah.
It's a fragmentation of intelligence itself. But I do have to mention, it wasn't all just serious geopolitical maneuvering in New Delhi.
Oh, right.
There was that moment with the robot dog.
The Galgoshes University incident. I feel like this story just perfectly sums up the immense pressure everyone is under right now.
It really does. So picture this. This university presents a robot dog at the summit, and they claim it is this massive triumph of indigenous innovation. They're saying, look, we built this entirely from scratch.
And the press is just going wild for it.
Oh, yeah, totally eating it up.
And then the internet does what the internet does.
Right. Within hours, online sleuths realized it was literally just a Unitree Go-To,
Oh, man.
which is a Chinese robot dog you can just buy off the shelf for a couple $1,000. They literally just slapped a sticker on it.
It's funny, but it's also kind of tragic when you think about it.
It really is, because it shows the sheer desperation out there.
Yeah.
The political pressure to show domestic progress and sovereignty is so high that institutions are just faking it.
Right.
They know that if they don't have their own tech, they're incredibly vulnerable, so they fake it until they hopefully make it.
Okay, so that is the global stage. Nations fighting for control of the tech. But if we zoom in to the United States right now, we have a very similar fight happening, but it is entirely internal. It's the federal government versus the states. And this Baker-Donelson legal report we're looking at makes it sound like an absolute legal nightmare.
Nightmare is definitely the right word if you are a software developer. This is our second major shift, the constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
And honestly, this affects American businesses directly, way more than anything happening over in New Delhi.
So it all starts with the executive order from President Trump back in December of last year, right?
Right.
The one called Ensuring a National Policy Framework for AI.
Correct. But the actual teeth of that order are just starting to bite right now, in February.
Why now?
Because the order created an AI litigation task force.
Which just sounds like a SWAT team for lawyers.
That is essentially what it is. Their explicit mandate is to hunt down and sue states that pass their own AI laws.
Wait, sue the states?
Yes, any state law that is considered inconsistent with federal policy or deemed too burdensome on tech companies.
Wow.
And the Commerce Department has a hard deadline in early March to actually pick their targets.
Oh, I see.
So right now, in late February, the crosshairs are actively locking in.
Okay, but who exactly are they targeting? Because historically, you know, Republicans are usually all about states' rights. This seems like a massive flip-flop.
It is a massive pivot. And we have to be clear, we are just reporting what's in the legal briefs here, but it's driven heavily by ideology.
Okay.
They are looking closely at California's Transparency in Frontier Artificial Intelligence Act.
Which focuses on safety protocols.
Right. They are looking at Texas's Responsible AI Governance Act, which is about risk management. And specifically, they are targeting the Colorado AI Act, which bans algorithmic discrimination.
Okay, let's pause there. Why would the federal government want to stop a state like Colorado from banning discrimination in AI? What's its argument?
So the administration's argument is that these state laws force ideological bias into the underlying code.
How so?
Their view is that if you legally force an AI model to ensure equity in its outputs, you might actually be forcing it to hallucinate or produce false results just to achieve those statistical balances.
Oh, I see.
So they basically view state anti-discrimination laws as pro-bias laws. They argue it creates a burdensome patchwork of rules.
So the federal argument is your state law makes the AI less accurate, so we are stepping in and overruling it.
Precisely. And then the states are firing back, arguing, wait a minute, we have a fundamental police power to protect our citizens from harm.
Right. Which makes sense from their side.
Right. But imagine you are a tech company trying to build a product today.
Yeah.
Texas tells you to maximize safety. Colorado tells you to maximize equity. And the federal government tells you to ignore both of them and maximize innovation.
You physically can't do it.
You cannot build a single product that complies with all three simultaneously.
It sounds like compliance hell.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's exactly the patchwork that the feds want to flatten. But legally speaking, this is a massive showdown about preemption. Can the president, just by signing an executive order, nullify a law legally passed by the Colorado legislature.
That sounds like a Supreme Court question.
It is absolutely a Supreme Court question, and the actual legal fight just started this month.
Well, speaking of fights, let's move to the Pentagon. Because while the lawyers are arguing in court,
Yeah.
the military is having a very real, very tense standoff with Silicon Valley right now. This reporting about Anthropic and the Department of Defense, it really feels like the end of an era.
It is the end of the safety era specifically,
Yeah.
because we've always had this idea that the leading AI labs, like Anthropic and OpenAI, were these ethical guardians of the tech.
Right.
I mean, Anthropic was founded specifically because they thought OpenAI wasn't being safe enough.
Right. They are the constitutional AI people. Their model, Claude, is supposed to be the ultimate helpful, harmless assistant.
Well, the Department of Defense has a very different definition of helpful.
Right.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly just gave Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei, a strict ultimatum.
And the deadline is literally this Friday, which is right now in our timeline.
Yes. And the demand is actually quite simple. Grant the military unrestricted access to the Claude model.
Unrestricted. Let's define that. Are we just talking about removing the, don't be mean filters?
We are talking about removing the don't kill people filters.
Wow.
Anthropic's terms of service explicitly ban using Claude for mass surveillance or for autonomous weapons.
Kill chains.
Exactly. Machines that kill without human oversight. And the Pentagon is basically saying, we are the United States military. A private company does not tell us what operational use cases we can or cannot pursue for national defense.
But technically speaking, can Anthropic just turn those filters off? Isn't the safety training deeply baked into the model itself?
That is the core technical problem. It is not just a toggle switch on a dashboard.
Right.
These models are trained with reinforcement learning from human feedback to instinctively refuse harmful requests.
So it's deep in the weights.
Yes. If you try to strip that out, or if you actively try to jailbreak the model for the military, you risk destabilizing the entire system.
It could just break.
It might start hallucinating wildly or just become entirely unpredictable.
So the Pentagon is demanding something that might literally break the product they want to buy.
They do not care. They just want the capability.
Yeah.
And the threat they are holding over Anthropic is severe.
Right.
They are threatening to invoke the Defense Production Act.
Which is a wartime law, meaning they could essentially nationalize the model.
Yes, or legally force Anthropic to prioritize government orders over all civilian clients.
Wow.
Or they could even label Anthropic a supply chain risk, which would effectively blacklist them from massive parts of the economy. It's a conform or die moment for the company.
But does Anthropic have any leverage at all here? Can't they just stand their ground and say no?
Their leverage is shrinking rapidly because the Pentagon has plenty of alternatives.
Right.
OpenAI has reportedly already agreed to terms allowing use for all lawful purposes.
Which is a very broad door to open.
Extremely broad.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk's xAI just secured a major contract for their Grok model to be used in classified settings.
So if Anthropic tries to hold the moral high ground here, they just lose the contract to Elon or OpenAI anyway.
Exactly. And this is the fundamental change of February 2026. The wall between civilian AI safety and military application has totally collapsed.
Yeah.
The biggest buyer in the entire world wants the guardrails off.
This is so intense. We've got geopolitical fractures, legal chaos in the courts, military ultimatums.
It's a lot.
But all of this software, all these models, they need electricity. And that brings us to the physical reality of this month. The power grid is tapping out.
We simply cannot talk about AI without talking about physical power. The limiting factor for these companies isn't getting enough chips anymore.
Right.
It's finding a physical plug on the grid that can handle a gigawatt of draw.
Yeah.
And the hyperscalers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta,
The big guys.
they've all come to the exact same conclusion this month. It has to be nuclear power.
We have seen such a flurry of deals on this, like Microsoft restarting 3 Mile Island.
Yeah, they signed a massive 20-year deal. They are renaming it the Crane Clean Energy Center, and they're targeting a 2028 reopening.
That's incredibly fast for nuclear.
It is. And Amazon just invested over $20 billion to convert the Susquehanna nuclear site into a dedicated AI campus.
Wow.
Google just signed a huge deal with Kairos Power for 500 megawatts. And Meta just issued an RFP looking for 1 to 4 gigawatts of new nuclear power.
Okay, let's pause on the Google tech for a second. They are buying SMRs from Kairos. how is an SMR different from a massive plan like 3 Mile Island?
Right. So think of 3 Mile Island like building a custom skyscraper.
Okay.
It's massive. It's totally custom built on site, and it takes a decade to construct.
Yeah.
An SMR, a small modular reactor, is more like a Lego set.
Oh, interesting.
It's built on an assembly line in a factory, shipped on the back of a truck, and then just assembled on site.
That sounds a lot safer and much faster.
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
But the problem is they have never actually been deployed at this kind of scale before.
Right.
Google is betting billions on a technology that hasn't fully proven itself commercially, purely because they are that desperate for power.
But why not just build more solar farms? Or wind?
Because of what we call the intermittency problem.
Okay.
An AI training cluster is not like a dishwasher. You cannot just turn it off when the sun goes down or the wind stops blowing.
Right, it has to run constantly.
Exactly. It needs 24/7, perfectly flat, massive baseload power, and nuclear is literally the only carbon-free way to actually do that.
But the cost of this, I was reading the stats, nuclear is incredibly expensive to build.
It is astronomically expensive. We're talking $6,000 to $12,000 per kilowatt to build new nuclear.
Wow.
Compare that to natural gas, which is only about $1,290.
So they are paying a massive premium.
Yes. These tech companies are willing to pay a 600% premium just to secure the power.
Which really tells you something profound about the underlying economics of AI, doesn't it?
It really does.
If they're willing to pay 6 times more for their electricity, they must think the output of these models is worth its weight in gold.
Exactly. They're betting that the intelligence they generate will be so incredibly valuable that the electricity bill literally will not matter.
Right.
But that brings us to the final and maybe the most painful shift of February 2026.
The economy.
The economy.
The scare trade, February 18th.
The exact day the stock market finally understood what replacement actually looks like.
Set the scene for us here. What exactly triggered the sell-off?
So a fintech firm called Altruist launched an autonomous agent. They named her Hazel.
Okay.
Now, Hazel's not a chatbot. You don't sit there and chat back and forth with her. You just give her a goal. You say, optimize my client's estate plan for the new tax laws. And she just goes into the system and does it.
She actually does the work.
She does the billable work. The exact work that junior analysts and associates normally charge $300 an hour to do.
Oh.
And the market reaction to Hazel was violent.
Yeah.
Wealth management firms took a huge hit. Charles Schwab dropped 7%. Raymond James dropped 8%.
I saw St. James's Place in the UK tanked 20%.
Exactly. Even real estate brokers like CBRE dropped 16%.
That is an absolute bloodbath in the service sector.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's the market suddenly realizing that human services might be a rapidly declining asset class.
Right.
If your entire business model is selling human time, and Hazel can now do that same task instantly for pennies, your margin just evaporated overnight.
But it wasn't bad for everyone. Notice who actually went up that day.
Oh, the people selling the shovels.
Right.
The AI infrastructure companies.
Yeah.
Cadence Design Systems went up 9%. NVIDIA surged again.
So the market is clearly saying owning the AI is incredibly valuable.
Yes.
But being the human who uses the AI to provide a service, maybe not so much anymore.
Exactly. And this connects perfectly to that labor report from the Dallas Fed that dropped on February 24th.
This was the part of the stack that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
They used these specific terms, tacit knowledge versus codified knowledge.
This is arguably the single most important concept for anyone listening to understand about their own career right now.
Break it down for us. What is the difference?
Okay. Think of it like cooking in a kitchen. Codified knowledge is the recipe book.
Okay.
Add 2 teaspoons of salt. Bake at 350 for 20 minutes. It is rules-based. It's explicit. You can write it down in a training manual.
Right.
AI is absolutely perfect at this. It can follow the recipe significantly faster and better than you ever could.
Okay, got it. And tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge is the master chef tasting the sauce and instinctively saying, this needs a bit more acidity today because the tomatoes were a little too sweet.
Ah.
It is intuition. It is reading the room during a tense negotiation. It is knowing exactly when the standard rules do not apply to a situation.
And AI can't do that.
AI is currently terrible at that.
So the Dallas Fed is essentially saying, if your job is just following the recipe, you are in serious trouble.
Yes.
But if your job is tasting the sauce, you are safe.
In fact, if you are the chef, you are getting paid more.
Really?
Yeah, the data clearly shows wages for true experts are actively rising right now. because AI makes those experts super productive.
Okay, but here's the dark side of that trend.
Yeah.
What happens to the person whose entire job was just chopping the onions?
Right. The entry-level work, the grunt work.
Exactly. Companies are actively using AI to automate all of those codified entry-level tasks.
Yeah.
Because why on earth would you hire a junior analyst right out of college to summarize 50 files when Hazel can do it flawlessly in 3 seconds?
You wouldn't. And that is what economists are calling the broken rung.
The broken rung on the corporate ladder.
We are actively kicking the ladder away. We are creating this world with absolutely incredible, powerful tools for the senior experts.
Right.
But there's no path left for young people to actually become experts.
Because you only learn by doing the grunt work.
Exactly.
You learn how the whole system operates by filing the boring papers and standing there chopping the onions for 2 years.
Precisely. If we automate away the entire learning phase of a human career, we are facing a massive demographic collapse of skills.
Wow.
Think about it. In 10 or 15 years, when all the current experts retire, who replaces them?
The generation that never even got hired.
Right.
That is just a terrifying thought to end on. It really feels like we are burning the furniture just to heat the house today.
It's creating what they call the barbell economy. It's really heavy at the top with highly paid experts, really heavy at the absolute bottom with manual labor.
And the middle is just gone.
The middle is just entirely hollowed out.
So let's try to synthesize all of this for you.
Okay.
February 2026, it wasn't just another random month in the news cycle. It was the month the boundaries were definitively drawn.
Think about all the distinct lines we just traced today. We have harsh boundaries being drawn between nations. Sovereign AI versus digital colonization in the global south.
We have boundaries being drawn between state and federal power in the U.S. courts.
Right. And we have the boundary between civilian ethics and military necessity completely crumbling over at the Pentagon.
And finally, that boundary between human labor and autonomous agents being aggressively redrawn by the stock market.
It is a lot to process at once.
It really is. But we promised a final thought for you to take away from this deep dive.
Yes. I want you to really think about that tacit knowledge concept we talked about.
Yeah.
The chef versus the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Look closely at your own job. Look at your daily tasks tomorrow morning. How much of what you do every day is simply following a manual?
Right.
How much of your day is just executing pre-written rules? Because that is the danger zone. The market loudly told us that on February 18th.
So the goal has to be to actively move toward the intuition side.
Yes.
The human connection, the complex things that simply aren't written down in the manual.
Absolutely. But the really provocative question, the one that honestly keeps me up at night right now, is about that next generation.
Yeah.
If we don't let them chop the onions, if we don't let them do the tedious grunt work to learn the ropes,
Right.
are we the last generation of true experts? Are we just pulling up the drawbridge entirely behind us?
That is a critical question every hiring manager and every CEO listening needs to be asking themselves right now.
Definitely.
Audit your own team. Are you building the next generation of experts, or are you just automating them away for a quick margin boost?
Because Hazel is incredibly fast, but she doesn't actually know how the sauce is supposed to taste.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. It is a brave new world out there. Good luck.
Stay curious.